the idea that America is in some sort of uniquely volatile state or divisive state, I call bullshit on that.
You mean like right now, as opposed to any other time?
Exactly. So, like, look, yes, we could obviously just start with a civil war. We literally did a civil war where 600,000 people died. 2% of the fucking population was wiped off the map. Okay, we could start there. That's the easy one. But, like, you go back to the 60s, public officials and fucking social leaders were getting schwacked left and right constantly throughout that entire decade that bled into the 70s.
Yeah.
You go back to the 1930s, socialism wasn't the dirty word back then as it is now. We were seriously on the verge of an actual socialist revolution in this country. We've always been in a constant state of like chaos.
Let's go.
Welcome to Citizen. We have a special guest today. Jack Mandaville, you're the host of Jacked History. And you told me earlier this morning that you've jacked off the earth.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Ever since I did DMT, I've become one with the universe.
Oh, no, I was talking about working in oil and gas.
Oh, yes, I did that. Yeah, I was the fluffer for the planet. Whenever they get done fracking, I was the guy that sucked all the water back out of the ground until they found oil.
Not like with your mouth.
Not with my mouth. No, I just had to look at a gauge once an hour for like 30 days straight.
And you get paid pretty well to
sit around and watch the Playboy channel in the trailer.
It's an interesting life.
Yeah.
I guess that tells you what the margins on oil and gas are.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, it's even crazier now. That's actually when I did my best writing. That was my last big boy job before I went into the creative world. I was sitting out there for 30 days at a time, had to check a gauge once an hour, take a sample. But I was writing like crazy, and then I ended up getting, took a 70% pay cut to go make YouTube videos for a t-shirt company. Yeah.
Which t-shirt company?
Ranger Up. Not really around these days.
No.
But a banger back then.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great. Now what are you doing?
I work for Black Rifle. I do documentaries and still make silly videos, and then I have my my YouTube channel that I started, Jacked History.
Aren't you working on or just finished some documentary?
Yeah, we've put out a couple this year, and then we had a big feature length we put out last November called War Pigs, which I'm very proud of. And then right now we're working on another feature with Jared on kind of the history of the JTACs. And so we got.
I actually don't know anything about that. That would be super cool.
It's going to be really cool.
Because back in the day, World War II was still the Army Air Corps.
Yes.
Right? So it was it was almost like the Marine Corps to the Navy before it became its own branch.
Yes, and that's kind of really the origins. We'll probably start with World War II as far as the origins of the evolution of the TAC-P and the JTAC. We'll start in World War II. Really came into their own in Vietnam, and then obviously the last 20 years they have become an instrumental part of the battlefield.
Yeah, I mean, we have just to have on ground deconfliction is something, to be honest. And I think with all the new drone stuff that's coming out, they're going to be even more important.
Yes.
To be honest.
Yeah, and they are amazing multitaskers. I've had the honor of listening to some intense engagements that some of these JTACs were in, and they were doing insane shit under the circumstances they were in. Really crazy stuff.
Like what?
Just coordinating air, danger close type scenarios, being overrun by Taliban, coordinating air, while simultaneously firing their rifles, like to keep, like it was that close and that tense, and that happened quite a few times during the global war on terror. I'm going to be interviewing a guy that during the invasion of Iraq, which I was there for, and I remember this Shamal, this sandstorm that happened, I think day 3 or 4. It shut the entire division down, and there was a JTAC that was still successfully calling in airstrikes when you couldn't even see your hand in front of your face. So crazy stuff these guys have done.
Yeah, Jared got a medal for something like that. There was this, I think he was an Iraqi Special Forces colonel or something like that, and he was pinned in by, I don't remember if it was Jay Sholmati or some other militant group or another. And
Yeah, you lose track of them.
yeah. Jared just like he flooded the airspace like crazy.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever even had to fire a shot. He fucked people up so badly with the show of force that they all just left.
Yeah.
Which is a smart move, by the way, because I don't know how close they were to. Certainly, over time, the enemy will learn your TTPs and what you are and aren't allowed to do, which is kind of a weird thing to put rules in war, to be honest.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the only rule in war should be to win as
Yeah.
quickly as possible, right?
Yeah. Why
Because-
can't we use some good old-fashioned German-style mustard gas from World War I?
Just burn people's skin off. Yeah, anyway, so working for Black Rifle now, how's that going?
Good.
You enjoy
Yeah.
doing the docs?
Huh?
You enjoy doing the documentaries?
Yes. That's been a really fulfilling thing, and it kind of happened by accident. I ended up, they were busy, so I ended up filling in to interview these World War II vets a few years back, and now I've been lucky enough. I've gotten to take on this vertical where we're telling meaty, good stories about organizations and interesting people, and every time I go to interview anybody, it's I always end up being very fulfilled, kind of learning about their life. And what I've discovered is everybody, no matter who you are, wants to talk. Everybody wants to tell their story. And so I'm lucky I get to talk to very interesting people and help tell their story.
Well, let's tell yours a little bit. Were you a machine gunner?
No, I was a 0313. It's kind of bastard infantry.
What is
MOS.
that?
It's a LAV crewman. There's only 3 active duty battalions of LAVs in the entire United States Armed Forces.
Are they still there?
Yeah, man. I actually just donated to their golf tournament, their annual golf tournament. I'm very proud of that. As a first LAR alumni, I got to give back.
Yeah, there used to be a similar MOS in the Army. I think it was 11 Mike, which is 11 mechanized, but they don't do that shit anymore. It's just like the people that are, there's some guys that are in strikers, they're still just regular infantry.
Yeah.
It's Bs and Cs, Bravos and Charlies and those, and then the 19 Deltas, obviously the Cab Scouts are in a variety of different armored vehicles. But
That's the closest. So this feature I did last November, War Pigs, that's what a lot of those tenured LAR officers said. It's basically the Marine Corps' version of the cavalry mission that the Army has. So that's a good. They're technically infantry, but it's not a non-traditional infantry mission.
Yeah. What was your guys' purview, I guess? You go into a battle space, what are you doing exactly?
Well, and that's the thing. If you have a good, because the LAR units report directly to division, they don't have a regimental system. So if you have a good division commander that knows how to use LAR, LAR could be doing all sorts of stuff, right?
Well, we use them for mostly blocking positions, to be honest, right?
Very common thing.
That's the best, because if you've got, I don't know, how many dismounts are in an LAR? 8, I think?
Per vehicle, it's 4.
4 dismounts.
So you have about 16 dismounts per platoon.
Okay. So the way that we would use them, we were primarily using strikers.
Yeah.
From, I think it was Second ID that was attached to us at Task Force Falcon. So we would, strategically, we would be setting up for a raid or whatever, and we would just send them out on normal patrols, and then they would stop in blocking positions and then dismount their guys and kind of make a wall that nobody could get in or out, right? So one of the, you've been on plenty of these raids in your life. One of the biggest issues is, especially in Iraq, is they're squirrely as shit. Man.
Yeah.
Like on both ends of it. So,
and there's tunnel systems in a lot of communities.
Yeah, we were mostly in the Sadr City area.
Yeah,
so
hot.
Yeah, it's hot as fuck. I mean, like, not temperature. Well, it's temperature-wise hot too, but it's like there's 4 million assholes running around. So
didn't Saddam have a rough time containing that city even when he was at the peak of his power?
Yeah. Well, because Al Sadr had been there. His dad was the leader of that place as far back as like the early '80s, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is we would cordon off an area, and then we would get we were using those cell site simulators a lot to find people based on their phone numbers and shit. And we would find a guy, and then it's a bomb making factory or something like that, but you run up on the building and then fucking they just scatter in every direction, right?
Yeah.
So even with the best ISR, good luck tracking every one of them down. So basically, you're just trying to call out, hey, dude looks like this is running in your direction to the cordon, but it's like, what are you gonna say? A dude with a fucking polo from the 1970s,
Yeah, and black
right?
sweatpants.
And black sweatpants.
And chanclas.
yeah, it's like, all right, cool. They all kind of got the same shit
Yeah.
on, but that's the way we use it.
Arabs
It's pretty
have nice
effective.
hair too. They got good sets of hair. A guy with a nice voluptuous set of hair.
Yeah, something that you got to be protected from the sun, I guess. Anyways, yeah, that was the way we used them. I assume a good commander would in the Marine Corps would do the same thing, right?
Yep, very common. Insert, exert stuff. Sometimes direct action. Also, yeah, scouting. I mean, the dismounts are literally called scouts. So scouting, it's not recon, but they have reconnaissance capabilities and well funded compared to a normal infantry unit. Even as a 0313, my job was I rarely ever got off the vehicle, but in training, I was very proficient with a Sasser. I just had access to it, which I wouldn't have it had I been in a traditional infantry unit.
And when did you get out?
06. I'm old.
Yeah, you
I'm an
are.
older fella.
Well, you're not older than me.
No, I'm not, but you are aging better than me, Dan.
I don't know about that. Maybe my outsides.
Yes.
Although I also don't smoke.
Yeah, my insides and outsides are kind of fucked. Yeah.
So we were talking about history and American history a little bit.
Yes.
What are some of the before we get into to that part? What have you been doing on Jacked History recently?
Oh man, I had a episode, based on considering my subscriber count is like it's around 24,000. I had an episode go off a couple weeks ago about how Canadians went a little extra hard in World War I compared to other countries as far as their violence level. That one did pretty well. I just did one on the Sioux Uprising in 1862. America was basically going through two wars at the same time in 1862. The Sioux people of Minnesota were kind of fed up with a government agency called the Lower Sioux Agency, corrupt as fuck, basically taking money from them. They were starving. They snapped and went after a bunch. They ended up taking on the army, but they went after a bunch of German settlers, and it was a 2 or 3 month ordeal where hundreds of people, military, civilians, Dakota Sioux, they ended up dying.
Now, it was my understanding that Native Americans were all peaceful before we got here.
According to liberal white people, yes.
And that's not true, is what you're saying.
No, they are called what we call human beings. So they're capable of doing what all human beings do, which is be prone to violence. It's kind of a human trait. It's what we all share in common, no matter what our skin color is.
Are you saying that there's no difference?
For the most part, no. Yeah, human being's going to human being, no matter where you go in the world. There's a reason why we don't mess with those off of India, the Sinhalese people.
Yeah,
we're just like we're just going to let them be. They're going to throw arrows at us. Yeah, we could drone them if we want to. They're hell bent on keeping their way of life. We're just going to let them do that.
I mean, that's such as their right.
Yeah,
we got no right to be there. Although the only thing you have a right to is what you can protect. To be frank,
which they can't realistically do that. But I think we've all come to a consensus as a society that they want to do that. Let's just let them.
I think we should start fucking with them, like projecting holograms down there.
It'd be a fun social experiment. Yeah.
It would be hilarious.
Yeah.
I know that they've seen some tech from a distance, at least at this point, right? Because people float by trying to take pictures of them sometimes, and they straight up come out of the bush and start shooting arrows at you.
Yeah. There's been a couple missionaries thinking they're going to be the ones to finally get the word of God to them, and no, never works out for them. It would be fun to project large holograms, see if we can get them to completely change their religious beliefs. Like, just make up a fake kind of God and see if. Actually, that's very manipulative now that I think about it.
No, it's hilarious. So we could say, like, hey, you all don't know this, so it's not your fault, but apparently some evil being put a bunch of demons into a volcano and blew it up a long time ago. let's call them thetans.
Yeah.
And then you're just infected with them. And you've got to pay me $20,000.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and I don't know where you're going to get it from. You better start digging.
Yeah.
You know?
We also take coconuts as payments. Yeah.
I do enjoy a good coconut, to be honest.
Yeah.
And coconut oil, obviously, is getting pretty popular these days.
I just did an episode on a guy named Carl Pedersen. He was a poor Swede who went off to sea as a young man to, get away from everything, and ended up shipwrecking on an island in outside of Papua New Guinea. And long story short, starts his own coconut thing on the island. The king loves him. The king's daughter falls in love with him, so he marries the king's daughter, and he ends up becoming like the coconut king of Papua New Guinea, and creates a very lucrative business out there, cultivating coconuts and selling them to Europeans. I don't know if you ever watched Pippi Longstocking, but Pippi Longstocking's dad is based off of this guy, Carl Pedersen.
Interesting. I'll check that out. I've never seen Pippi Longstocking.
I love that shit. I love Pippi and Huckleberry Finn. Two feral children that did whatever the fuck they wanted. But when it came to doing the right thing, they always did the right thing. Unless you were like a slave catcher, then Huck was aiding and abetting.
Yeah.
Slaves, so.
I mean, he did still call Jim the N-word.
Yes. Yeah. Kind of a victim of his time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I suppose just Jim probably would have done it. But,
yeah. You really had to add that extra element to it, didn't you? Huck?
Now there's a comedian that does a joke about this. I can't remember who it is. But it's like they edited the book and now it says Slave Jim instead.
Right.
It's like, I think the guy just says, well, why not?
It's counterproductive. But again, it's a typical white liberal thing to do is let's try to make this word non-existent. And in the process, we're going to end up giving it more power.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a good idea to resist history. That always seems like a bad idea.
I feel like Mark Twain did a pretty good job documenting what it was like to be in Missouri in the 1850s. And once you start watering that down, you get less of an idea what it was like to be in Missouri in the 1850s, 1840s, 1850s. I think it was 1840s is when Huck took place.
Yeah. Yeah, that just always revising history seems like a bad idea because we have this bad problem in the West of unsolving problems that we've already solved.
Because we're bored.
Yeah. It's like, but the only way that you can do that is if you are either ignorant of history or you revise it, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to, if somebody can just look it up and be like, well, no, that's not right what you said.
It's better to be ignorant of history than revise it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you can learn
Yeah.
the truth eventually.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people are ignorant of American history specifically. I'm putting together a long, kind of, I guess you could call it instructional thing on the Constitution. And it's not just what's in it, but the history prior to it, right? Like the prehistory of the Constitution, like the Levelers Agreement of the People and the Magna Carta and all that shit. Yeah. So
we inherited we as Americans we tend to not realize that we inherited a lot of our not just system but ideas from British folks.
Yeah, pretty much all of it.
We didn't
actually
invent this. It was an evolution of ideas.
It was either British or French, right?
Right.
It was either, and then some from the Athenian, not so much Rome necessarily, although we do take some stuff like a lot of our buildings, for example, and our court system, like the judiciary takes a lot from the Roman judiciary. But as far as politics go, ancient Athens, yes, and then mostly after that, it's British.
Yeah.
British constitutional and common law, and then kind of French legal philosophy as well, like Montesquieu with the separation of powers and shit like that.
We
didn't invent
removed
anything.
the wigs from it.
Yeah, we didn't. Well, after a while, yeah, we didn't technically invent any of it. To be honest, we just kind of like
put our own spin on it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we looked at all the stuff, all the research people have been doing. You can actually buy this textbook. It's called The Preceptor, like precept, and it is it's the textbook that every single one of our founding fathers would have read when they were studying law, right?
And they were intellectuals.
Yeah, when they were studying law and government, that would have been the primary textbook at Harvard, Princeton, et cetera, that they all went to. UVA, I think, was a big one if I'm not mistaken, for some of the Virginia people.
Oh, that would make
was
sense.
it?
I didn't know that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, you can track a lot of that stuff back because I think that textbook originally got published in the late 1730s, I think. If I'm
When
not,
they were all young.
young, yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have been the primary textbook back then.
Except for Ben
so
Franklin.
It's a difficult, yeah. It's a bit of a difficult read because it still has a lot of mixed in. Well, there's a lot of words that aren't used anymore. There's some mixed in Old English phonetics and shit like that still. So it's not an easy read, but it is something you should get your hands on. But anyways, the point of all that is people have in this country, either by choice or circumstance, a very poor grasp of civics. They really don't understand in general American civics, and they don't understand the history of American civics either.
Yeah. I don't have kids. I don't know what goes on in public schools, but I fear that's something that's not happening like it did when we were growing up. And I feel like our parents probably got a lot more lessons in civics than we did.
Well, so I've found this out, and I don't know if this is true in every public school system, but I found out recently from parents that have kids going into middle and high school that they don't teach civics anymore.
That's what I hear as well.
What the fuck?
It's kind of a fundamental thing. I get, like, there's science, mathematics, and civics are probably the three most important things for young children to be learning.
I would say...
Well, obviously reading and writing.
I would say beyond reading and writing, specifically literature, because understanding prose and understanding metaphor and how it works, right, is really important to understanding other people. Because it's like there might not be a specific word that you and I can agree upon to name what we're looking at right now, but I can tell a parable. And you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense to me, right? So I think it's important to understand that stuff. So yeah, that's 4 things. But the civics part is just not there anymore, and I don't understand. Well, I do understand why they would do it. To be frank,
that's why you always hear people being like, "Why can't the president just do this?" It's like, oh, there's actually a system in place here. There's a lot of steps that have to happen. You should know that.
Yeah, yeah, and then I mean, on both sides of that, so there's all this hubbub going on in L.A. right now, and people are like, "Oh, the president can't just send federal troops to blah, blah, blah." Well, actually, the Insurrection Act says he can do that specifically, right? It's like...
you don't want to use it liberally.
Yeah. You don't want to use it liberally, but when a mob of people waving foreign flags are surrounding federal agencies and burning police cars, that might be a rare opportunity to use that particular
They
act.
did in 92, Rodney King riots. You know what I was talking to Jared about last night? Is I don't get stressed out about seeing that kind of stuff in the news. L.A. is in its natural cycle of big rioting. So obviously they were due for one, right? So they're getting another big LA riot right now. The last big one was 92, Rodney King riots. The one before that was the Watts riots, I think was 68, 69. And then they had the Zoot Suit riots during World War II. Yep. LA's just in its natural riot cycle.
It's been 30 years.
Yeah, they were due for one.
Yeah. Maybe that's just the tea kettle whistling. You know what I mean? Like the pressure has built up, and now it's letting off some steam.
Yeah. LA, it's such an interesting history in that city because obviously that was LA is kind of the last stop for the American expansion westward. So you're getting you're getting a type of people that, the last major migration to LA was in the 40s, 50s. But you're getting kind of a group of people, like they're the last of that Western push, that kind of somebody that's willing to take risks and do crazy shit for a better life. Obviously, there's been a lot of evolutions to that culture in LA since then, but it's very much in a lot of ways, it's like a Wild West town.
It is, yeah, and
built on oil.
Yeah, just like everything else, except for the northern part of the city that was built by a dentist, right?
In L.A.?
Yeah. What's his name? What's that
Well,
city?
like the Valley or
No.
like
Hold on. I got to look it up now.
Northridge?
No. It's where the other airport is.
Oh, Burbank.
Burbank. Dave Burbank. I'm not kidding.
You're not doing that.
No.
This is a real guy?
That's actually where it came from. Because it's such a stupid story that this dentist named Dave just started his own city called Burbank. And his name is Dave
Just
Burbank.
on the other side of the hills.
Yeah, so for years now, anytime anybody's like, hey, what was that quarterback's name? I'm like, oh, Dave Quarterback, I think it was.
I didn't know that's where that came from.
Yeah, of course. It's some stupid shit. Yeah, Burbank is named after just some dude. A dentist, just decided to start his own city. But the rest, yeah, I mean, like everything on the West Coast was started by oil or gold, right?
Yeah.
One of the two.
People looking to make rich. People that were like, hey, you know what? I'm sick of Missouri. Let's just go to California.
Yeah. And now people are leaving California to go to Florida
Heading
and
back
Texas.
east.
Yeah.
Hey, let's go invade Idaho. That looks ripe for the ruining.
Oh my God, man. It's to be fair, it is a college town, but Boise's like got a fucking super liberal mayor now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's not. People are not thrilled about that. So I guess we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, the demos are changing west of the Mississippi right now, with the Californians kind of now moving east. I mean, that kind of started like Phoenix was probably a bunch of people in California that were over it back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And those things happen from time to time. But again, back to the point, people just don't have a great grasp of history and civics specifically. And it leads them to make dumb mistakes there's an old saying, a smart man learns from his mistakes, a wise man learns from the mistakes of others.
Yeah.
And the fact that we continuously make the same ones over and over again that were just made 20 or 40 years ago, it's like, wow, this is very irritating to me that we're still doing this.
We're not thinking things through. It's a very American trait. We don't tend to think things through a lot of the time.
This episode is brought to you by our title sponsor, Omaha Steaks. From handcrafted steaks to family grilling favorites, Omaha Steaks delivers the world's best steak experience for all of your 4th of July grilling plans. Enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. And now, during their 4th of July sale, you get 50% off site-wide. Holy crap, that's a good deal. At omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $45 off with the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. This is a very American company, folks. They've been around since 1917, America's original butcher. Great meat of all sorts, whatever you can think of, they got it over there. And now they're giving you this crazy deal. It's 50% off site-wide plus $45 off with the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. There's nothing quite like an all-American feeling. 4th of July cookout. You know what I mean? You got to celebrate being American because we are the best country in the world. It's the perfect time to stock up and celebrate with the exceptional handcrafted flavor and convenience of Omaha Steaks. Grass-fed, grain-finished beef, more marbling for exceptional flavor, and is the choice of steakhouses and professional chefs around the world. Plus, don't forget about all new smash burgers. They're built for the grill. 6 minutes from the freezer to the grill. Perfect. I made a bunch last week, and it's just some of the best in the world. So once again, get fired up for the 4th of July with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale and add an extra $45 off with the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with the promo code CITIZEN at checkout. See site for details. This episode is also brought to you by First Form, firstform.com/Drinking Bros, the best protein in the business. Protein is the building block of life, folks. I say it all the time. You replace every cell in your body over the course of 2 to 10 years, depending on how active you are, how much you eat, and how clean you eat. And if you're replacing it with garbage, you're going to be garbage. So make sure you're eating the best possible protein you can and supplementing with First Form. Don't forget about the micro factors. It's just a little simple pack. Open it up, dump it in your mouth hole, and feel better. You know, they've got the liver detox, which is a great thing for people that like to drink or people who, just want to be healthier. And then they have all these other supplements. They've got great pre-workouts. They've got great protein in all the flavors. And then, of course, for people on the go like us, they have exceptional meat sticks, protein sticks, and a variety of different flavors. And then the level 1 protein bars in a variety of flavors as well. That we talk about this stuff all the time. They're great. So go to firstform.com Drinking Bros. It's the best company in the world. You've seen us with Andy. You've seen the company. We love these guys. It's a very American company, so go support them and support us. firstform.com/Drinking Bros. That's 1stphorm.com/Drinking Bros. And we're doing it to some degree, there's like this. I understand a lot of people's frustration because I share it with institutional power, right? Like the government and media have proven to be completely untrustworthy.
Oh, this goes all the way back to the Spanish-American War, the yellow journalism thing. This isn't anything new. People act like the media just became untrustworthy recently. Like, no, we can trace this back over 100 years.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit more than, right around that same time period. So if you've ever read The Master Switch by Tim Wu, I recommend that book, even though he's a liberal, but the data is great. He talks about how anytime any kind of new modality of communication happens, the government, whomever it happens to be globally, right, whatever government is involved, tries to seize it and weaponize it in some way, right?
Printing press,
the fucking internet, everything, right? And he tells this story about how the Associated Press and Western Union helped Rutherford B. Hayes steal an election in the late 1800s.
They were all in the pockets of big business.
They wanted to shut down Reconstruction, right?
Yeah.
Like the Northerners wanted to stop the South from growing. Because remember, one of the primary issues that the North had with the South wasn't just about slavery. It was about that they were dominating economically.
It was economic.
Right? Not to say it wasn't over slavery. That
was a big part of their economic success.
Yeah, it was a huge part of their economic success. So you take it away, and then the South still has quite a bit of capital.
Yep.
Still has quite a bit of production capability.
And Atlanta's rebuilding itself.
Yeah, and if they go through Reconstruction successfully and over a shorter period of time, then the South becomes more powerful than the North very quickly again. And maybe they thought that it would, I'm just trying to take people at the best possible meaning. Maybe they thought that would lead to another civil conflict and they would try to reinstitute slavery or some shit. Who knows what they were thinking, but they definitely stole an election to stop Reconstruction. And it made it last.
People forget that was beneficial for the Reconstruction. If they would have seen it through the way it was planned, it was beneficial to the South.
Oh, yeah. And it would have been a huge boon to them economically, too. And instead, what we got were Jim Crow laws, right? And extended it another, 70 years?
Slavery
basically?
2.0.
Yeah. We extended it another 70 years because the North didn't want the South to become powerful.
Yeah.
Right? Again, that's a problem, right? People need to understand this history to understand that it isn't that all media is evil or anything like that. It's that people are corruptible.
Yeah.
And the only thing that stops them from being corrupted is you keeping your fucking eyes on them, right?
Media business can be very corruptible. I mean, I know a lot of journalists that these people are, the reason we know certain things is because these people had the balls to go out and get that information.
Yeah.
So journalists are very important to society. But the business of media, it's the same thing as I think, most actors I've run across are fun, great folks to be around, but the business of Hollywood is fucking shit.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in anything that butts up to politics, because this has always been a problem. So a journalist, a quote unquote journalist, whatever you call them these days, especially if you're a reporter, especially if you're an investigative person, maybe to some degree you got to play that game, but that's not really your job. But the game is you have to pay for access, and you either pay with compliance, right, or you pay with propaganda. It's one of the two. Like, okay, I won't ask these questions, or we'll edit this out, or whatever the fuck.
Because
right?
the person who owns my publication is friends with the person that I'm digging into.
Or if you're a Pentagon, if you're a reporter who covers the Pentagon and you start telling stories about the Pentagon that they don't like, they're going to fucking shut you out. That's just how it is. And people make their careers off of these stories. And same thing with just the White House press corps in general, right? It's a little bit more difficult to shut people out these days, although Trump has found a way. I'm not sure that that's appropriate.
For legacy media he has, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And they're not going to let us in either. So they're doing a lot of this so-called new journalism, citizen journalism stuff, and having one chair in the room for people like that. We'll never get in there, even though we're one of the biggest media outlets outside of the legacy media that even exists. Right?
Yeah.
Because we don't play that game. where
because you're very capable of asking the wrong question that they're not going to like.
Yeah, and I've done it a lot actually. Yeah, but that is what it is. You know, I respect some people who, like, you do got to have some skin in the game sometimes, right? I think we're all kind of in layers. You know, people that are able to get closer. You know what I mean? And I can put out stuff through them. That's good. One of the things, one of the big tragedies, in my opinion, of this erasure of institutional authority. And the authority, by the way, institutional authority doesn't come by force. It comes by respect. Us, the plebs, whatever you want to call us, look to these people. They say X, and we're like, oh, that's good data. Thank you. And we believe it now. And you, over a long enough period of time, you do enough stuff that makes sense, then I'm going to give you some leeway to tell me other stuff, right? That's how it works. Because we don't have time to sit around and investigate every single thing. I think experts are important.
Yes.
Right? Like if somebody gets some disease, they still go to a doctor.
Right.
Even these like sovereign citizen, anarcho-capitalist people, they're not fucking going out and rubbing deer piss on their leg.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a Coptic Christian or something like that in Egypt in the fucking 17th century. They're not pissing into sand and packing it into a wound or whatever. I think it was actually cat piss. No, they go to a doctor, right? So everybody has some level of trust for institutional authority somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And it's not the people's fault specifically that it's gone away. They've lied to us over and over and over again. So
you've had bad players that, you know, boy who cried wolf situations.
Yeah. So you have to this is something that's important because no matter what happens with all this political tumult, we're going to have to rebuild these systems at some point.
Yeah, and trust in the system.
Yeah, we have to rebuild them in a way that is more trustworthy and more resilient, you know, to all the stupid shit that's happening now. That is going to be on the citizenry to a large degree, but it doesn't help us in any way that we're so far away from trusting anything we hear ever, right? Like that's an untrusting society like that. That's bad news for everybody.
And we shouldn't have a few people telling us what we should and shouldn't trust.
Yeah. So that's why you got to move the individual people out of the way. I don't give a fuck about Biden or Trump or any of these people. They are meaningless to me. They are any politician or any expert is a conduit for information. And they are either a good conduit or a bad one.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're a bad one, not on purpose. They're just, we're in this period in human life where you're forced to have hard opinions on shit that you don't care about.
That for me, that's been one of the biggest growing things for me personally that I've dealt with, that I've faced myself over the years is if I'm not educated on something, I'm removing myself from having an opinion. I'll listen to what people have to say about it. I'll keep an open mind, but I have my lane in life. I'm supposed to entertain people, supposed to get chuckles out of people or these documentaries, whatever. I'm not going to save America by having a fucking opinion, a hard opinion on something. So I don't need to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah.
And it wastes a lot of emotional energy to have an opinion on everything.
And intellectual energy.
Yes.
Like, for example, I go to a doctor, and that doctor has political opinions. I'm sure they do.
Right.
I don't fucking care.
You care that they're good at their job.
Yes. I only want you to be competent at your job and tell me why this thing's growing on my foot. That's it.
When Reagan got shot, he asked the surgeon, are you a Republican or a Democrat? And I think he said, well, everyone's a Republican right now. Because, you know, he's operating on the president.
Yeah.
Doing his job.
Yep. That's a really good way to put it, actually. So you've got to move these people out of the way and focus on what they're saying and the underlying principles behind it and whether or not they're real, right? So there's been a big push. I would say America in general, the voting population, is pretty anti-war right now.
Yeah, we have, which is a good thing, as a society, we have war fatigue.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it's not even fatigue from war, it's fatigue from being bullshitted and lied to.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So we have Like this is, I just want people to see all the individual data points. We have a population that is pretty anti-war. Maybe it's fatigue, maybe it's principled, who knows, right? But it's the same effectively. So then we have our overseas strategic goals, right? And we definitely have them. The federal government's job is to protect us from existential threats. That's mostly it, right? And I think we can all agree that it's not really beneficial for Iran, for example, to get nuclear weapons.
Agreed.
And I don't think it's particularly beneficial for the United States to launch a war or be involved in one, even as a partner force, right? Or even as supplying weapons. I don't want to be involved in any of that shit.
What we did in Vietnam, we essentially got involved with a civil war that didn't affect us at all.
Yeah, people forget that our involvement in Vietnam started before we were even out of Korea, right? It was in the early 50s. We were already sending advisors over there, which is to say war criminal.
Yeah.
To be fair. But
that was an Eisenhower initiative.
Yeah. But there's this thing, and I've been talking about it on the show a lot lately because I don't think people really understand it, called American soft power, right? It's what the State Department's job is supposed to be. Certainly now they take the oversight over a lot of the immigration stuff, right? Passport issuance and stuff like that. But the primary job of the State Department is to manage our affairs overseas, right?
Diplomatic muscle.
Yeah. So how can we best affect positive outcomes for American citizens with our relationships? That's what the State Department's job is. And it has nothing to do with military force, right? Like this is the carrot version to some degree, right? Because there's no violence, but there's stick and carrot there as well. The most common one is sanctions, although I don't think sanctions really work. I think in international terms, the carrot is almost always better than the stick, because if you use the stick, then one, like what's his name? Ron Paul used to say, sanctions are like, our foreign aid is like taking money from poor people in rich countries and giving them to rich people in poor countries, right? That's always been a bad thing. That's how it works for the most part. Foreign aid, in that regard, just giving money to foreign governments has been highly unsuccessful for us and had a lot of blowback. What you do is when you use the stick in that way in sanctions or foreign aid to despots or military action even, right? What you get is resistance from the worst possible people. And if you use
like fringe people.
Yeah, exactly. And you bolster their point.
Yep.
And then they get more recruits out of it. When you use soft power, when you use the carrot, then typically you get the best possible actors because those people actually want to make their country better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what are you fishing with exactly? What kind of bait are you using? Not bait in the sense that, but like what are you fishing with? And there's a long history of very successful American soft power, right? I mean, that's the oil and gas industry in general is built around that. The reason we were so successful
develops nations.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is not the Saudi Arabia we see with the amazing architecture and advanced public transport without the people post World War II U.S. drillers showing up and extracting their natural resources for them.
And if we hadn't gotten involved in the kinetic side of things in the Mideast back in the day, like overthrowing the Iranian government because they wanted a better deal from what do you call it?
The Shah?
No. They wanted a better deal for their oil price internationally, and that was inconvenient for us. So we got rid of the king and brought in a fucking religious zealot who would play ball with us, and that lasted like 6 months.
Right. Not the first or last backfire on us.
No, that's the thing. Every time we got kinetic over there, it always went tits up because nobody wants to see white faces in a brown country telling them what to do. Right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want fucking immigrants running around your country waving foreign flags either, do you, motherfucker? Like it just seems like it would be very common sense, but when we've tried to do that, it's gone really poorly. But when we've invested in infrastructure, like even since 9/11, we did in Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia agreed for us not to completely wipe them off the face of the earth, that they were going to start providing us intelligence.
A lot of those Al Qaeda guys were coming from Saudi Arabia, not Iraq.
15 out of 19.
Yeah, they were coming from Iraq.
So it's like, including Bin Laden himself, right?
Yeah.
So we invested quite a bit of money post 9/11 in Saudi Arabia's government, because we were helping them with different things. They were providing us with intelligence on countries around the area and blah, blah, blah.
We were creating programs, too, throughout the Middle East that was tempering extremist or terrorism recruitment and extremism in the youth. Like, we were funding programs, essentially the way that we do how the LA gangs were dismantled through these outreach programs. There's still obviously gangs in LA, but it's nowhere near it was in the late 80s, early 90s. They were doing that to basically curb the amount of young people being attracted to religious extremist organizations.
Yeah, so at the time of the early parts of the GWAT, about 83%, I think, if I remember correctly, because I wrote a paper on this back in the day, 83% of the primary education facilities in Saudi Arabia were madrasas, right? Which is Islamic fundamentalism, death to America, basically, right?
Wahhabism.
Yeah, Wahhabist schools. Now, it is not like that at all. They're not teaching that shit anymore, because MBS doesn't want that anymore. He wants to modernize. He saw what happened in Jordan and Bahrain and UAE and Kuwait and so on and so forth. When you just concentrate on, when you just concentrate on making money, and don't care about any of this other bullshit, your country does really fucking well. Yeah, you know what I mean. And you don't get involved in these stupid conflicts all over the place. Jordan, because of its geography, has to deal with it from time to time, because they have a bunch of.
But considering everything, they do a great job dealing with it.
Yeah. Well, they're pretty vicious over there, to be honest. But I mean, good for them.
When you have a king that knows how to fly attack helicopters,
that helps. Yep. Yeah, and then because of their relative geography, Kuwait, who has our backing, and then Bahrain as well, not involved in anything. Really, right? They're just making money, keeping their mouth shut.
Let us have a few of our folks over here to keep an eye on things in the region.
Yeah, so it's like you can see the results. The results of us not meddling in their politics and just providing business. And it's not American taxpayer funding for the most part. It's mostly private business doing that. Oil and gas was almost exclusively private business. As a matter of fact, they were paying the CIA back in the day. Like they were funding operations for the agency back in the day. It was the reverse taxation, I guess. But yeah, those are some examples of it working really well. So, and you can see them all in the same general location on Earth. Iraq and Iran and early Saudi Arabia, not so great, because we were fucking around trying to do dumb shit. The other countries where we came in later, you know what I mean, and our relationships were primarily business-based, which is what it was supposed to be in the fucking first place. The results were the results were quite a bit better. And then even after all the shit we fucked up, historically, when we just started doing the business side, even with Saudi Arabia, who had just attacked us, to be fair, right? I mean, it wasn't the leadership of the country, but it was family members of the leadership of the country. They had just attacked us.
I'm sorry, the Al Qaeda leadership, these weren't like street thugs. These guys, they came from very good families.
Yeah. So it's like, even in that scenario that we had already fucked up, as soon as we pivot over to doing the right thing, stuff immediately starts to improve. And now this country that literally attacked us 25 years ago is investing hundreds of billions of dollars into our economy, right? And we don't have to worry about them as a security threat anymore. As a matter of fact, they're a security presence in that region, which is very beneficial to us now. So it's like, I know that USAID has a very bad reputation now, because when you peel back...
A lot of misinformation.
There's a lot of it, And when you peel back the budget, there's some shady looking shit in there. And there is. There's no question about that. If you peel back any part of any budget in the federal government, there's a bunch of shady shit in there. And USAID was used by... This is the issue, right? I mean, it wasn't the program itself. It was neocons, right? That's what started all this shit, this nation-building shit. And it started, Eisenhower warned us about it. He's like, hey, these motherfuckers are coming.
Kissinger's and all that.
Yeah, Kissinger's. I mean, even on the left side, LBJ started it, really. Like, as far as spending time and effort and money, LBJ is the one that really ramped that shit up.
Kennedy, from what I understand, so obviously Kennedy is like kind of the, obviously he founded the Green Berets. He was very forward-thinking, very asymmetrical thinking to, at that time, the Cold War situation we were in. But he founded USAID essentially parallel with, you know, U.S. Special Forces and kind of the advancement of the CIA to be a more compassionate wing of the CIA.
To be the soft power version of it.
Yes.
Right? I mean, that's the whole point of it. That's like so again, I don't like a lot of the stuff I saw in USAID either. Now, some of it is misinformation on purpose. Like, some of the stupid names they gave to programs were just black programs for the agency where they were hiding money, and some staffer thought he was clever calling it circumcision for like I don't know, some there's a couple of stupid entries, but still, I guess the question really is, you know, along with all the other institutional distrust now, how can we course correct that and actually get the benefits again of American soft power? That's something that I'm, as somebody who's had to go to a stupid ass war for no reason, I'm very interested in that. You know what I mean? As somebody who's had now over 25 people kill themselves as a result of this stupid shit, I would really like it for it not to happen again.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can be anti-government, this and that, and bitch and stuff, or you can live in reality, right?
Yeah.
And you can be those things still. You can be anti-government. I'm fine with that because I am too. But you do have to realize that it exists. And we are going to have international relationships, and relationships have conflicts from time to time, right? This is something that has to be tackled, and we can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I would highly recommend people learn about the history of this stuff and then try to be part of an ongoing solution that keeps us out of wars. That's what I like.
Yeah. Which they have that track record in a lot of instances where on the diplomatic and humanitarian side, they got, when they were kind of let loose to do what they needed to do, arguably it prevented us from having boots on the ground.
Yeah, and a lot of conflicts, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, you know, even at home, and this is one of the ways that you can really, as an individual, start affecting this stuff, but you have to have the information to do it, right? So what works here also works there. It's just, you're human beings, as you said before. What works here will work there. Pumping money into stuff that's good, right? And by good, I mean businesses and individuals. It works. This is something I have been talking about for 5 or 6 years now. The U.S. should have, instead of sitting around with their thumb up their ass, back in the early 2000s, they should have started buying mining rights in Chile and Peru to all the rare earth minerals down there, and fund the mines, make it a sovereign wealth fund, United States sovereign wealth fund, pour treasury dollars into that, buy all those mining rights. By the way, China owns 65% of global mining rights, 65% of all rare earth minerals they own. We should have bought those, including ones in China or in Chile and Peru, by the way. We should have bought those. We should have built refineries all the way up through South America and then into Central America, particularly in Guatemala, right, where people don't have jobs and it's all gangs everywhere. We should have built that stuff, built that infrastructure, and then...
And let them govern their own countries.
Let them govern it, yeah. And then build assembly factories here in the U.S. for the final products, for batteries and for microprocessors and all that other bullshit. We should have done this years ago. We're just now starting it now, right? If we had done that, one, we would have had a sovereign wealth fund established, which is accruing interest and owning stuff that's appreciating over time instead of building a huge fucking debt. And we would have established a supply chain for this thing we desperately need. And then third, and maybe most importantly, we prevent the need for these people to immigrate to our country, right? Which
Yeah.
creates all sorts of security issues as well. It solves all three of those fucking problems. And we're just like, somebody else will take care of that. Like,
Yeah.
that's
China.
And China did. And we do the same thing at home, right? Both sides, like we used to have a right and a left, and the right would fight against spending and the left would fight for spending. And now we have two groups fighting over more spending.
Yeah.
That's all we have.
Yeah, it's really again, I'm not, you know me, Dane, I'm not a highly political person, but I don't mean to get nostalgic because nostalgia is a pretty dangerous drug, but I feel like in the 90s when I was a teenager and even just growing up in the 90s, even as a teenager I recognized there was a clear line where the political party stood, and it seems really muffled these days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the functional difference is.
Rhetoric?
They're basically just fighting over which one of their districts gets the money instead of like, well, let's not spend anything, right?
Yeah.
And it's taken all sorts of weird shapes. Like even people on Trump, not Trump himself, but people on Trump's team tried to get carried interest set at the income tax level instead of the capital gains level, which is fucking crazy to me, right? We've talked about this a lot over the months, but I'm a business owner. If I get more revenue coming in, usually what I do as a small business owner is expand my business.
Right.
That is true for Hard AF. Like, we're desperate for capital all the time because we're trying to crank out as many new cans as possible. If I make more money, I'm not putting it into my savings account. Man.
Yeah.
I'm putting it back on the street and hiring people. Anytime we get another fucking $1 million in, we go hire 15 or 20 more people, right? With long-lasting American jobs. And luckily, the bill, the big beautiful bill as they're calling it, which is mostly bullshit in my opinion, isn't good. But they at least got that part out of it. Trump got that part out of it, to his credit. Somebody actually finally had a conversation with him about carried interest and what it is. He's an investor. He knows that. He's like, oh, yeah, this is going to fucking put a blight on American business. We can't do that. So I'm glad that he did that. Now, somehow, nobody's more fiscally conservative, by the way, than a Republican who's not in power.
Yeah.
Because every time those motherfuckers have power, they don't do a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
And that's who we're talking to now.
I mean, that's the left's problem, too. Both parties fumble everything they hype up once they have the ball.
Well, I think Republicans do it on purpose. I don't know. The left may just be incompetent, but I talked about this a bunch of times before. There is the Republicans starting back in 2012, I think, voted to repeal Obamacare 63 times, all the way up to 2019, or into 2018. And then when the congressional session started in 2019, after they won the House back and the Senate, so they had the votes to do this stuff, and they had Trump in office. So he definitely would have signed it. They voted twice, and 7 and 9 Republicans, respectively, voted against it. So they couldn't pass that. So they couldn't repeal it. So they talked all that shit. They voted time after time after time. And then when they actually had the ability to do it, they're like, well, maybe not. And this is something that's deeply affecting the U.S.
Congress.
Yeah. It's something that's deeply affecting the U.S. economy, and not just Amazon and Walmart, man. Like small businesses that are trying to expand and create more jobs for its citizens.
Well, isn't that like one of the inherent signs of health of our country is
private equity? Yes. Like when people who have money are spending it to help other people build their businesses, that means they're confident that the economy is going in the right direction, right? And sometimes it's a chicken or egg thing. Sometimes brute force spending your way into something like that can help, right? What they won't do is spend through high interest rates. They won't spend through predatory economies and stuff like that. 13 million workers across the country in 2024 worked in or around private equity in some way, right? It's a huge fucking industry of just like, it's a business is you see a problem and you solve it in a way that makes you money, right? I can solve a problem. I can spend $1, turn it into $3, and solve a problem in the process. That's what a business is. for small businesses, especially during the COVID stuff, which is a good example because
recklessly hanging them out to dry.
yeah, the government hung people out to dry, but private equity stepped in. I can't remember what the multiplier is, but it was a private small business who had good relationships with private equity thrived during even that terrible period in our economy. Even though it was fucked, they still did well because they had access to resources, which should be no surprise to anybody, right? Man, it's really frustrating to me. The way that government operates now is instead of facilitating, they choose sides. And maybe that was always the case, right? It was certainly the case with Thomas Edison, right? Because he stole a bunch of IP from Tesla.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of stuff that was not as good. Like if Candace and I were talking about this yesterday, I think. If the government hadn't stepped in, Tesla would have won that energy battle, and all the shit that's above ground right now would be below ground. And every time there's a fucking storm, all of our power wouldn't go out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's how stupid it is.
Yeah.
So here
we
again,
have not evolved. We're just like we're gonna keep the same system that's been around for over 100 years.
Yeah. So it's like we should be, instead of this stupid shit that one, all the wasteful spending that's going on, but especially with private equity, it keeps businesses open. You know what I mean? And not just open, but it helps them thrive. Like when we're looking for money for Hard AF, one, it's money because we need money to produce more of the material, right? But also strategic relationships, right? Like the private equity industry comes in for a lot of heat these days because everybody thinks billionaires are the problem with the world. Millionaires are the problem, right? Who are trying to become billionaires, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, these people that have.
I wouldn't know. I'm a bona fide thousandaire.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about people who build a business and retire and wouldn't have had anyone to keep it going, and all those employees just lose their job.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of situation. You have to build infrastructure with that, and it requires money to do it. And I'm telling you, you alluded to it a minute ago. We don't. You shouldn't expect private equity to step in when the government's fucking up, because the government just has too much control now. So what's the government doing? What's Senate doing? Like if people are getting the shit taxed out of them, and then they realize, oh my God, all my tax dollars are going to dumb shit. Like literally, did you spend any decent money? Did you make any good decisions here, or is it all bullshit?
Yeah.
That's a big problem for people, I think. It's a big problem. And I don't know how you come out of it, to be honest. Again, this is like...
Everything ebbs and flows in this country.
Yeah, it's bad enough that the institutional power and trust is gone from government and medicine and shit, but when it's the economy, that's when shit gets dicey.
And everyone's going to pay for that.
Yeah. Like right now, we're kind of in the middle of the very early stages of a housing crisis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of the problems is supply. There's not enough houses. People need to build more houses. One of the things you depend on to build more houses is people who are in current homes who sell them, make a little money, and then buy a newly constructed home. That's a big part of that fucking funnel, I guess, if you want to call it that. That's not happening right now because interest rates are high as shit.
Yeah.
Nobody can sell their house. You know what I mean? It's like, stop tinkering with things and get the fuck out of the way. You should be, like, if you're working in government and you're at all involved in any kind of economic stuff, your job should be to facilitate. Try to help everybody you can make as much money as they can.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't have to worry about taxation. That shit will take care of itself. But you can't, like, it's some kind of weird, like, Chinese finger trap ideology that happens with these fucking politicians where there's like, oh, we're just got to get a little tighter, squeeze a little bit more out of them, and we'll be good. Like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
1% of more is still 1%, or still more, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
and then they people get tight with their money, and then they don't want to buy coffee, and then if they're not buying coffee, I can't make my documentaries, so I get fired, and then I can't spend my money on Philip Morris, and the whole big tobacco industry falls apart because I'm not funding them anymore with my money.
and that would be a tragedy.
It'd be a tragedy.
We don't want that. So yeah, we need to bring a lot of this stuff back, and I think specifically the government has to start realizing that their job is to not be a goalie, right? Like, you're not supposed to be stopping people from doing shit in this country. Your job is to stop other people outside this country from doing shit.
Yeah.
And
Well, the original intentions of, like, basically, at its core, the original powers that the federal government had was basically militarily. We're just supposed to protect. Make sure we're not getting invaded. That's it.
Yeah.
That was it.
and then protect shipping and transportation.
Right. Yeah.
right?
That's what the Marines were for.
Yeah. So it's like we can still do that. As a matter of fact, we've got much better stuff now. We can do it better than we've ever done it.
Yeah.
And, Israel does one thing that they do a great job of specifically is if you're an Israeli citizen and you're overseas somewhere with a business, they will use their intelligence service to help you build your business, right? Like, hey, here's what you start a fucking a double wall container business. They're like, hey, Stanley's doing this, this, and this. We used our information to find out what they're doing. Here's their fucking whole program.
Isn't there 50% of their entire economy revolves around intelligence services?
Probably, yeah. Yeah. But I know people who are Israelis who have big businesses over here in the U.S.
Yeah.
And the intelligence communities over there, the primarily Mossad, but sometimes MOD, the military guys, will just reach out to them directly, like, hey, you want some help? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want some help. Can you imagine you're running some business in fucking Europe or Canada or the Mideast or South America somewhere, and you get a call from the agency or the State Department like, hey, you wanna grab coffee? Here's 10 ways that you can beat all of your competitors in that region.
Yeah.
Right? Because what happened, like, Americans who have businesses overseas they remit back to the U.S. too. They have American bank accounts for the most part,
yeah.
right? So why the fuck are we not doing that?
Well, I mean, that's kind of from what I with USAID, they were helping a lot with private American interests overseas.
I just, again, going back, if you know the history of this stuff, this is kind of one of the ways that the U.S. intelligence community got stood up in the first place. We didn't pick people from Yale and Harvard and Princeton because they knew about espionage. We picked them because they knew about fucking business.
Yeah.
Right? And history. That was specifically the two things they knew about. They knew business and they knew history. They didn't speak any foreign fucking languages. Some of them spoke Latin, actually, because they were
Mo Berg.
Yeah.
Not successful after World War II, but
Yeah.
Actually, I will completely derail this if you get me started on Mo Berg.
I don't give a shit.
Oh, man, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, my God. Mo Berg, one of the most interesting men in American history. He, born into a very, immigrant class Jewish family in Manhattan there. He grew up like 2-3 blocks away from the Polo Grounds. His dad, for whatever reason, didn't want it to be around Jews for some reason. He wasn't like self-loathing Jewish, but so he sent Mo to school with a bunch of Catholic kids, like Italians and Germans and everything. Anyways, Mo was highly intelligent. By the time he's graduating from Princeton, he spoke like 8 languages or something like that. Latin. So he played baseball at Princeton. He used to communicate with his fellow infielders in Latin, so the other team couldn't hear what they were talking about. Anyways, so 20, 30 years before the color barrier was broke in baseball, and people forget, yes, it was the right thing to do, desegregating Major League Baseball, but there was a business element to that. They wanted to put black spectators in those seats, so you have to bring black players in. It was completely about the greens. Well, they did the same. Jews, baseball was extremely popular with Jews, especially around New York area.
Yeah.
And so they big initiative to bring in a lot of Jewish ball players. So Mo Berg got drafted right out of Princeton, pretty much made his major league debut right off the bat, and had a solid 16-year baseball career as a catcher. He was, but Mo Berg. So right around the time his baseball career is ending is when World War II's kicking off. Just so happened. And he'd go on these tours in Japan and everything like that. And while the rest of the ball players, because they were trying to teach baseball to the Japanese, because it was getting popular over there. But while the rest of those ball players would, they'd go home after that, he'd go and spend his money traveling the world, learning more languages. I think he knew like 14 languages by the end of it. But he had been taking video in downtown Tokyo about a decade before everything kicked off, and he actually gave that to the OSS when World War II kicked off. He ended up becoming an OSS agent and did crazy shit all around Europe. So this former Major League ball player then turned OSS agent. Kind of a really cool. There's a lot to it, but I don't know why I derailed the whole thing for that. But
well, he was, I think after the war, sent over to Europe, the Eastern Bloc area, to spy on the Russians and how they were developing their nuclear programs as well.
Yes, nothing big came of that, and he fizzled out. Kind of a sad. He spent the last 20 years of his life basically living at his brother's house and never really held a real job ever again. Kind of a sad but he was like a weird book. All he did all day was just read. That's all he would do. He'd read 10 newspapers a day.
Yeah. Interesting guy.
Yes, but talk about the OSS. What we were talking about earlier, you know, those were the predecessors to the CIA, and they were doing a lot of out of the box stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's like certainly again, if we want to keep ourselves out of kinetic situations, especially now even more so than pre-World War II, because now we are the only superpower that exists. Like we are the global reserve currency. The American dollar can be used. Control of the American dollar specifically can be used strategically all throughout the world to do things that benefit the United States, right? So the issue at hand is understanding how it actually works, right? Like understanding what works and what fucking creates massive blowback. Interfering in their politics, massive blowback every single time.
And then you can also
literally every single time. Even recently in Ukraine. Yeah. Right? Like overthrowing their government during the fucking Orange Revolution or whatever the fuck it's called.
You run the risk of creating generational resentment.
Yeah.
Like basically connections and relationships you can't get back for a long time.
It's stupid. So the overarching point is that the system itself is not the problem. It's the morons who are using it wrong. I mean, if you gave a guy a fucking steak knife and he shoved it through his hand, you're like, oh, knives don't work. We got to get rid of knives. Like, no, that guy's a fucking retard.
Right.
That's what really happened there. So we got to get these idiots out of the way.
People giving things stupid names, thinking it was a funny thing to do.
I've told this story before as well, but you may have some some knowledge or insight on this. One of my commanders used to say, because we would be planning operations and shit like that. And we would like, hey, all right, what are we going to name this one, boys? And obviously, we're a bunch of infantry idiots, so we're just like saying we're just saying the dumbest shit ever. And finally, my company commander, Will, said, you know, one of my, his dad was the commander of that Air Force base in Colorado back in the day.
Oh, wow. Like where NORAD is and all that?
Yeah. And he was like, my dad told me one time to never name an operation that you wouldn't be okay putting on a death note. Because somebody might die on it, and then you've got to write to their parents and be like, "Hey, your fucking son died honorably on Operation cock poo poo pee pee." Like, fuck. All right, can we go back and rename it now?
Yeah.
So, that's just a stupid thing that everybody should know already.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in a position that high, you should fucking know that that's not an okay thing to do. Yeah. To be honest.
And don't name it Spartan, okay? It's been done. Don't name it Operation Spartan.
Yeah, we need to. That's another thing people need to learn more of the history about, to be honest, because the Spartans
one of the most overrated
societies
ever.
Yeah,
so overrated.
Didn't they get beat by Athens pretty much every time they came into conflict?
Yes.
All those soft hands over in Athens whipped their ass every time they got into a fight.
Every time, dude. And they're at the peak of their power. They really were only around for only ran the show for like 60 years. When obviously you look at the length of Greek society, that's nothing. They didn't adapt. They didn't play well with their neighbors. They didn't adapt militarily.
Yeah.
They didn't adapt socially.
As soon as somebody showed up, there was like, because they were basically like a dude on the internet talking shit. And then as soon as somebody showed up, just got their fucking ass handed to them. Like,
yes. They it's not like they were dominating the rest of Greece. They had a lot of people that put them in their place pretty consistently.
We should do. Softcore has done some stuff on that, I'm sure, on how the Spartans pretty much sucked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys did one.
I did an episode like 2 or 3 years ago ranting about same thing Same thing with the samurai. Like, okay, cool, it's cool, warrior culture, yada yada yada. Dude, they were mobsters. They were fucking bullies, and freaking the Emperor Meiji, this young guy who wanted to liberalize and modernize Japan and give power back to the people and make the average Japanese person's life better. The fucking samurai fought it because their whole thing was bullying people and keeping people in check through power.
Yeah.
And when Meiji wanted to modernize, the samurai tried to stand in the way of that. And Meiji was like, all right, well, these Americans are giving us a shitload of guns, so we're just going to mow you down. You guys are done. And that, like, they had a very anticlimactic end because they didn't want to adapt. They wanted the same system that was around 500 years before, where they were allowed to be fucking bullies.
Yeah, I mean, this is true anywhere, but whatever aristocracy or power center exists will protect itself before it'll protect any particular person or ideology or anything else. You can see it in American government right now. They're circling the wagons. All these old school repubes and the Democrats who allegedly hate each other are all fucking from one side or the other voting against the same thing, which is what the American people voted for.
Our lesbian lieutenant governor.
Yeah, just a fucking absolute turd.
Just like, what the fuck, dude?
That's to be fair, and it's I just don't. I don't know what to say about that dude, to be honest.
We have to wait the dinosaurs out.
Like, who was fucking concerned about any of this shit? And it doesn't bode well for Rachel Maddow, because that's her in like 20 years. They're gonna look that's what she's gonna look like in 20 years, right? Because they're both the same. I don't know who was asking for any of that shit. What the American people ask for is stop spending our money on dumb shit. Stop taxing the fuck out of us. Just those two things, and then the immigration thing, which is getting sorted out. But nobody in government is doing anything about it.
And how dare you say that you're the party of small government and not interfering with people's freedoms when you're doing shit like that?
I don't know. And it makes you wonder, like, why would I ever vote for a Republican right now? Because at least the Democrats are just saying what they think. The Republicans are lying to me.
Yeah.
They're telling me that they're going to do it, and then they get power, and then they don't do it. They don't even try.
He's clearly in the pocket of the alcohol lobby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so, also, some of the funders of all the PAC stuff around getting weed criminalized here in Texas own weed companies. They want it criminalized because then they get permits from the state, and only them get permits from the state. So they have a fucking virtual monopoly here. The three of the largest companies that are certified to sell medical weed in Texas once it becomes legal, which I don't think it is right now.
No,
but it is, but only for people with like cancer. You have to be dying literally. Those people that already have permits to sell or whatever you call it, I don't know what the certification is called. They were funding a lot of the anti-weed stuff, right?
Yeah.
Of course they were. And Patrick's probably taking money from them and from the lobby, the alcohol lobby.
Yeah.
I would imagine. That's how it's always gone, right? It was the timber industry back in the day that made weed illegal in the first place.
Yep.
Right? Had nothing to do with anything moral or any of that bullshit.
And it wasn't hard to sell back then either. It's like, you want to be like one of these Negro jazz players?
Yeah. Pretty easy sell. So, yeah, I mean, it's the institutional stuff is creating a real problem for us. But luckily, there's a lot of people who are paying more attention now. It isn't enough just to pay attention to the news. You've got to look back in history and understand how we got here.
Yeah.
I think it's really important.
It's all cyclical. Like everything's that I think that's why I enjoy. And like I stated earlier, like I'm aware of stuff, but I don't really have any. I don't have many hard opinions on stuff because I just can't expend that much energy towards the news. But the fact is, the reason why I don't freak out about a lot of things is you can look at this cycle in history. This is just a different flavor of things that have already happened before.
Is there an example?
Just anything going on now that
just pick one.
Okay, I mean, I always say this, like the idea that America is in some sort of uniquely volatile state or divisive state. I call bullshit on that.
You mean like right now, as opposed to any other time?
Exactly. So, like, look, yes, we could obviously just start with a civil war. We literally did a civil war where 600,000 people died. 2% of the fucking population was wiped off the map. Okay, we could start there. That's the easy one. But like, you go back to the 60s, elected public officials and fucking social leaders were getting schwacked left and right constantly throughout that entire decade that bled into the 70s.
Yeah.
You go back to the 1930s, and we were talking about this earlier with the whole Smedley Butler thing. But that aside, people forget in the 1930s, socialism wasn't the dirty word back then as it is now. We were seriously on the verge of an actual socialist revolution in this country. Like communist leaders were getting elected all the time. Like we were in dude, labor wars that were happening in the 30s, like the kinds of beatings that, like the riots that were happening in every industrialized city across America were constant.
Yeah.
We've always been in a constant state of like chaos. It's just that it's just like I said earlier, nostalgia is a dangerous drug. I grew up in the 90s in this quote unquote great decade of American prosperity. But like, dude, my generation, the millennials, we fucking invented school shootings. Like,
well, somebody had to do it.
Yeah. That's a very millennial thing to do.
Yeah, it is. Yes. So now is not any different. People I think what might be different, a little bit different now is the rhetoric.
Access to information.
Access to information and rhetoric.
Yeah.
Right? And access to rhetoric as well.
The rhetoric's not good.
Yeah.
Oh, I agree. But like, look, before the Civil War, like, I'm not even counting all the John Brown shit and all that. Before the Civil War, you had an elected official beat another elected official to near death on the fucking Senate floor. He ripped what's it called? That thing that holds the tables up.
A leg?
A leg from a desk in the Senate chambers and beat another elected member with it. Like,
that's pretty dope,
over his opinions on slavery. Like, dude, and like, by the way, this whole thing, like, our founding fathers would be disgusted with the way politicians are now. No, they wouldn't.
There were a bunch of drunks who like dueled each other.
Dude, I know.
Death.
The fuck, like, can you imagine if John Adams had access to Twitter? He would make fucking Donald Trump look like one of the most humble men on the planet.
Yeah,
John Adams would be tweeting every fucking 30 seconds.
If you're out there and you got a good grasp on how to use AI, somebody should make an AI John Adams Twitter account. Just ripping people up.
Opinions.
Oh my God, dude.
Dude, Thomas Jefferson started his own fucking newspaper just so he could talk shit about John Adams and take the fucking election.
Yeah.
Like, these guys were conniving as fuck.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, Marjorie Greene Taylor or AOC or whoever, they talk shit to each other over Twitter. This is nothing compared to what our founding fathers, they were assholes to each other.
Yeah. Good times though.
Yeah.
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 All right, we got to get out of here. Tell everybody where they can find you and all your nonsense.
Well, you can find me in all my nonsense crashing in Jared's spare room. But if you want to find me on the internet, it's at Jacked History, JACKED HISTORY, on YouTube. And, I do all the other social media stuff. I don't really post a lot on Instagram anymore. I'm kind of putting all my energy into either making these documentaries for the people that give me health care and my side gig on the YouTube channel.
Well, thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
I appreciate you
hope you have
having
a great rest of your day, Jack.
Thank you, Daniel.
I'll pray for you.
No, you won't. And I don't expect you to.
I wouldn't. I'm not going to do that, yeah. But I will wish the best for you. But thanks for coming today. I appreciate it. It's always fun and entertaining.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.